Epic Gaming Night is sponsored by Analog Gamer. Check out Analog Gamer for high-quality board game apparel. You can find Epic Gaming Night shirts and much more at analoggamer.com. This is Epic Gaming Night, a podcast about board games and the stories and relationships they create. Welcome to the Epic Gaming Night podcast, a podcast about tabletop games, but mostly board games. I'm your host, Roy Candy, and with me, as always, is Matt.
Hi.
And Rob.
Hello, hello.
And we have a special guest with us today, the Game Boy geek himself, Dan King. What's up?
What's up, man? How's it going?
Pretty good. Well,
Who's clapping?
That's
We're
our
excited to
online
have you.
audience. Like, you can hear them through the stream, right?
Yeah.
Nice save.
The soft cheers of the internet people.
Awesome. So if there's people out there who don't know who you are, Dan, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do on the internet in the board game media
Sure.
sphere?
Yeah, I got a YouTube channel. It's called Game Boy Geek, and I review board games. And so I've done, over the last 3 years, I've reviewed over 600 games. They've been viewed more than almost 4 million times.
That's
and
awesome.
so I'm still clunking at it, trying to do this full time at some point.
That's awesome. So, what about your gaming background? Like, do you have like a whole lot of different, like, how did you start gaming in general?
Well, I was I played games a lot as a kid with my mom and my dad and my family. We played games almost every night, and that's kind of how I got my name. Was when I was a little kid, I used to walk around the house with a stack of games that were usually higher than my eyeballs, and I would walk around and I'd ask every person one at a time, "You want to play a game?" And they'd say no, and I'd go to the next person. "Want to play a game?" "Nope." Go to the
That's
next
awesome.
person. "Want to play a game?" So my dad, and this was pre-Nintendo Game Boy. This was back in the early '80s. My dad nicknamed me the Game Boy. And that sort of stuck. So that's why my name is Game Boy Geek, because my dad nicknamed me that when I used to just want to play games all the time, right? So, played a lot during the child years, middle school years, and then didn't play as much as I got to high school and college. I got, real busy studying and playing sports and stuff, so I didn't play as much then. And then I'd say, about 6 years ago or so, went to a Christmas party with a friend of mine, and we ended up playing Forbidden Island, and then the rest was history.
Oh, snap. So when you're carrying around all the games as a kid, was this like the normal like Monopoly and Risk and like
Yeah.
Stratego sort of stuff?
Yeah, it was just, your typical mass market stuff for sure. Clue. I love
awesome.
Clue was my favorite because I love deduction games. So I would just try to find anyone that wanted to play that with me. But yeah, there was a whole stack of all the mass market stuff.
It's like, guys, play Clue with me, or there's gonna be a murder scene real quick.
I got
Dan
the
with the board game in the kitchen. God. That's awesome. Well, we're going to get into all of your philosophies about board game reviews and stuff like that, but we're going to talk real quick about some of the games that we've been playing. So, I guess I can go ahead and start off. A couple weeks ago, I got a chance to play Mystic Vale finally. This is a card building game. It's actually really unique because it uses transparent cards. It feels very much like you're playing a deck building game like Dominion and stuff like that, but you are sleeving clear cards into card sleeves, and you're building your deck that way. And also the deck building mechanic for this is very pressure luck as well. So basically, you're trying to draw cards off your deck, and there's these little icons. I think it's called something. I forgot what it's called. Anyway, what happens when you draw the cards, if you get 4 of them, then basically you bust, and then you have to like basically skip your turn almost. So there's kind of like a mechanic where you can continue to draw cards, and you just keep on drawing and drawing and drawing. So a lot of deck building games, it's really good to get like cards that let you draw more. Well, in this game, you always get to draw until you get cards that make you stop your turn and bust. And it's kind of interesting because you set up your turn before the other players, and you get to continue on and doing that. I thought it was super interesting. It felt like when I was playing it, it basically felt like playing any other deck building game with not a whole lot of interaction. I think it actually has less interaction than Dominion even does, like with the attack cards. So you're just trying to play off of a little bit of what your opponent's doing, but it almost felt like I was playing solo, just going through, doing this thing. It's like, oh, what'd you do on your turn? Okay, doesn't really matter. Just keep on going. I definitely thought the mechanics and things were interesting, and it was a pretty fun little game, but I don't know if it's anything that's, like, crazy. I want to see, like, the Mystic Veil, like, 2.0, like, what more they can do with this mechanic, or when they add more expansions to this, like, it'll be really exciting to see, like, all the different places that they can take this clear card sleeving mechanic. I know Matt and Rob haven't played this game yet, but I know, Dan, you did a review on it as well, right? So What do you guys think of Mystic Veil?
Are you asking me or them?
Dan, I guess you, because the other guys probably don't have an opinion.
I'm not typically a fan of deck builders, but I like the card crafting. I thought it was different, and I like the press your luck. The press your luck part of it made it more fun for me than just a normal deck builder.
Right.
And I'm sure that there's going to be, from what I've even heard, that they had a really big game that had this mechanic in it that they were holding back because they wanted to release this first to introduce this new mechanism, and then they're going to put that in some big grandiose thing in the near future.
Yeah, I think I'd be a lot more excited about that, just because this felt a lot like not super interactive, and I'm doing my thing and you're doing your thing, and oh, the game ended, and look, you have more points than me. That's cool. We played a few games, and I was just like building my thing, and then the game was over, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess the game's over now. Oh, you have more points. Good job. It was pretty fun, pretty solid, but not something that I was like raving about. So, and I really want to see what more they can do with it. I know this is probably like not at all up Matt's alley, because he's not a fan of Dominion at all, and this is like even more in that sphere of less player interaction.
You mentioned the name, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds like a neat name." And then you started talking about Dominion, and then I just
turned off.
Started looking at other things.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do have a question for you guys.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
I'll ask Dan as well as soon as he sits back down. So I have a question about the game that you guys were just talking about.
Yes.
You guys said that you were excited about what it could do. And maybe it was because I was distracted by my daughter and because I'm in the living room because my game room's not set up yet. But is this just like, did you guys just play a prototype, or is this the final product?
No, this is the final product, but
expansions?
it's coming out with expansions, but also the designer himself has said he originally had this huge grandiose game that uses the same like card mechanic, because the mechanic from this game, the part that makes it innovative is that there's these clear cards that you're like card building. So basically you have cards and sleeves. He said the way he designed the game is he wanted to build a game that uses like the actual sleeves as part of the game itself. So you slot these cards into the sleeve, and like it changes the card itself. So there's like 3 different layers, a top, a middle, and a bottom, and it's basically like deck building, but you're actually building the cards themselves. So each time you draw that card, it can be better, and like you can build combos on a single card itself, sort of thing. So, and it's very innovative and very unique, but somehow still felt the same as deck builders. So I'm excited to see when they add more to it or make it a little bit more complex, because this is kind of like a like lighter weight. I wouldn't necessarily say family weight, because there's tons of like text and all sorts of stuff on there, but it's like a lighter weight game still overall.
Would you say, and it's not the same type of story or maybe theme, but when you're talking about building the card and stuff like that, are you talking about kind of like a Gloom, how you have all those clear cards and you're building on top of them, even though you're doing that for characters? Is it kind of like that?
It's not necessarily the same, because in that you're like stacking them on top and just leaving them on the table. And this one, like, they're literally going in a sleeve and they're shuffling back into a deck, just like a deck building game. So you build the card, you add something to it, you shuffle it back in the deck, you draw it back out, and then you add more things to it, and you're just building the card itself. Yep. So who wants to go next for what we've been playing? Dan, what have you been up to?
Played this little 2-player co-op game called The Ravens of Three Sahasri. This was a
Is that
Japanese.
the game that Eric was just talking about?
I'm not sure. He possibly was. I've had this for a little while. It just got reprinted by Osprey Games. It used to be like a small publisher in Japan. It's like a two-player asymmetrical co-op game where you cannot communicate with each other. It's
Yeah, and the Ravens can eat stuff.
yeah, it's really a bizarre and unique theme where this guy was rescuing this woman from some place in Japan, and they were running out, and the person that was helping them got killed, and she fell into a coma, and you're trying to help her awaken by talking to her heart through cards and trying to make her relive her dreams to wake her up. It's kind of a weird theme, but it actually is really cool. It's unlike anything I've ever played before. If you like co-op games where you have like no communication, like Deception, Murder Hong Kong, Mysterium, Hanabi, Beyond Baker Street, that type of thing, it uses that sort of that mechanism as the main part of it. But one player is placing cards down on the table, and it's like a puzzle aspect. There's some of the cards are shaded, and some of them are shaded a little bit more than others. So sometimes a card will have shadings like this, or sometimes it will be it'll have different shading, and you have to overlap the shading on the other shading. So you're like building a puzzle, but you're giving them a lot of choices of colors and numbers. And when it's the other player's turn, that player is specifically taking cards and lining them up to create 4 lines of a poem that equals 7, 7, 7, then 5. So essentially it's lines of a poem, but it's just numbers that she's trying to get. And there's a lot of things that she's trying to tell you by which card she takes, which one she doesn't. And then once they get in the poem, they all have special abilities you can enact. It's a really interesting game. I loved it.
That's crazy.
It's very unique. It's nothing like it. I've played nothing like it ever.
So
it's
it's
really cool.
It's strictly 2-player game.
Yeah, it's a 2-player co-op. Takes about 45 minutes, and it's
awesome.
really cool. It's tiny. It's like it's got like Dixit-sized cards. You could put this thing in your pocket. It's got a lot of depth too for how simple it is.
That's awesome.
It sounds like you, Matt.
I'd totally play it. I love like any kind of co-op. Like if it's a co-op game, I'll play it. So I'm definitely interested in checking that one out.
So it's funny when you teach this one, like it's one of those ones where you start to lay out like how the game works, and some of these concepts are just like so unique and so fresh and so foreign that you're starting to teach the game, and usually you get the like okay, like they're kind of laughing, okay, oh, and then this does it, and okay, and it's kind of fun to like. It's just so it's like a paradigm shift from like things that we've seen in the past. You know what I mean? It's like it's just cool.
That's awesome.
So try it out. Ravens of Three Sahasri. 3 is THRI.
How much? I'm sorry. How much was the like cost, like the price point for it?
I'll look it up and as you guys talk about your next one.
Okay, doke.
Nice.
I played the Pandemic Legacy rulebook.
Reading game.
I now own 2 copies of the game, so I want to completely make sure I have everything down, so that we don't fail.
So
making the game
backstory for
function.
you, Dan. We played all the way into June of Pandemic Legacy and realized we had missed one really big rule the entire time we played the game.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the worst thing you can do in a Legacy game, basically. So
Well-
it's like, do we just burn the board now? I'm sorry, Rob.
My favorite part is in the rule book. It's like, hey, if you get a rule wrong, don't worry about it. It's probably not going to be a big deal. And I was like, no, the rule we left out, kind of a big deal. It's the one about like rioting in fallen cities and stuff. So it's like all of our cities were just fine, and that's
And we were still getting trashed in that game, which is the worst, because I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, we were doing terrible.
only
Like,
makes it
how are we
harder.
gonna win? And then turns out we were playing on easy mode. So I mean, we went into the game being like, oh, Pandemic.
Ooh.
We know Pandemic. Like Pandemic, this is fine. We're just playing Pandemic, and then I'm like, oh wait, there was some things we missed. That's bad. So good times. But yeah, super
well.
excited to hear of Matt's tales of playing that game someday, maybe.
one day. Who knows?
I would
So,
like
Matt,
to be a
that's-
part of that group since my copy
I
was the
got 2
sacrificial.
copies, so we can
Yeah.
go anytime.
Yeah.
I
Hey
would
Matt,
say
that
day.
game I was just talking about, $18.
Oh, that is not bad at all.
It's awesome. Yeah, it's like a little size box.
That's a Haba game.
Yeah.
But is it as good as a Haba game?
It's definitely
from-
different.
The description, I would buy it.
You'll
I'd
see
say
my
$2.
my review's going live tomorrow, so you'll get a good sense of how the game plays.
There you go.
Oh,
great.
snap.
Cool. Well, I've been playing Don't Die, and also moving.
Is that a game?
It felt like a game last night. So, I think I'm now at a point in my life, if I move again, I'm just going to pay people to do everything.
That's the way to go, man.
It is. It is.
Yeah,
Especially,
pizza and beer only goes so far when you get this age.
it hurt, Dan. It hurt. I would not let people carry my board games. And I have it's not a big collection, but I have like over 170 games. And so I was trying to get like 3 boxes of like big games down the stairs. And because I'm going to turn my basement into like a man cave. And so as you go down the stairs, you know those famous stairs where like you have to duck a little bit or you're going to bash your head in?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to duck while I'm carrying these big boxes and I can't see and I misstep and I just fall. And I did not land on any games. And I was able to actually, I landed still holding the games, but I landed directly on my knees and I twisted my right ankle pretty bad. And so, yeah, that was... That was fun, and I told Roy about it, and the first thing he asks is, "Are the games okay?" Not how you feeling, Rob. Not what's going on.
I figured
So
you didn't
okay,
need your
so-
ankles to play board games. Like, you can still podcast and play board games without your ankles, so I figured you'd be okay.
See, that'll
Yeah.
teach you. That'll teach you to let your friends carry your games next time.
Oh, absolutely. So I've been doing that, and I tried to play Descent one player, but I need to get familiar with the rules. I have fallen in love, Dan. I've fallen back in love a little bit with Fantasy Flight. I really like Fantasy Flight, but this whole idea, the app that came out for Mansions of Madness, blew my mind. Mansions of Madness was already one of my top 5 games of all time. Absolutely love the game. And then we played it with the new app, and it just was amazing. I really enjoyed the experience, really enjoyed everything that it had to offer. And so when I found out that they were doing the same thing with Descent and also with Imperial Assault, which I already own Imperial Assault, but I didn't own Descent, I was like, man, I need to buy Descent right now, and I need to try this out. So my copy came in the other day, and I got everything set up, and the minis look cool, and the big dragons and everything like that, and these ogre guys with multiple heads, and the different classes that you have to choose. So I'm going through the rule book now, but as you start the app, it tells you, yeah, if you've never played before, read the rule book. And so it was late. It was like after 10 o'clock at night, and we'd been moving. It was that same day, Roy, that you came over and helped move.
Oh, yeah.
So I was just exhausted. And so I was like, yeah, I'm just going to put all this away. So I almost played a game, but I'm really excited to
There you
get back to it.
But you're alive, so that's all that counts.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll go ahead and get into all the nitty-gritty of board game reviews with Dan King. So, Dan, how did you actually start reviewing games?
Ooh, good question. It was kind of by accident. Most people will think
Okay.
it's a pretty interesting story actually. So each Christmas, we the congregation that I go to does like an adopt a family where they, you pick a family off a tree that's in need, and you and your family and your friends go together and you get a bunch of presents for the kids, and then you bring them over there and stuff like that. So we were doing this for our family, and when we got to their house or their apartment, we realized that they didn't have any furniture. They were sitting on a wicker mat, and they had literally no furniture at all. And we asked them how long they'd been living there, and they said 6 months. And so we realized like this wasn't a temporary thing. So we took pictures, and we came home and we emailed pretty much all of our friends and our family and stuff. And within a week, we had the community like filled our garage up with stuff like beds, and people were going on Craigslist and getting beds for cheap, and people were going everywhere. My whole garage was full. So we invited them to our house, and half of us took them to like a Christmas light display in Phoenix, and the other half of us had gotten a U-Haul, and we went and did like a HDTV makeover at their house. So when they came home, their entire house was furnished, and all the presents were in like the beds for the kids. And I felt like this was something special, so I just took like a camera and just like started filming, kind of like as we were doing stuff, as people were putting furniture together. And when it was all said and done, like I just used like Windows Movie Maker and just like made this little off the hip video. And they ended up showing it to like the entire congregation of thousands of people, and it was just really cool. And then everyone would start getting a hold of me, and they're like, hey, can you do a video for this? Can you do a video for this? Can you do a video for that? And I was like, okay, but I want to actually like learn how to do this, because this clearly, it came out well, it came out good, but I wanted to like learn how to do it like really well. So I bought a couple of books on Final Cut Pro for the Mac, and I spent every minute that I had free for the next couple of weeks going through those 1,000 pages and going through all like the stuff of learn how to edit and stuff. And then I finished, and I was like, I want to have like a real project to work on, not just like these little like tutorials. And I was like, well, what should I do? And I'm like, well, I got some board games, so I'm also just trying to shoot a review. Literally, so I shot like 10 reviews. I put them all up like in one day, and then the next day I got a call from Tom Vassell, and the rest is history.
That's awesome.
So I
heard that,
so kind of a lot of people say it's by accident. I feel like I was being prepared for this all my life and didn't really know it, and it just so happens that it all worked out.
Yeah.
Want to play a board game?
Yeah,
So can you tell us a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to reviewing board games?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I mean, one of the things that people talk about a lot of times is like objectivity.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are like, oh, okay, should you be objective in games? And I mean, being objective, whenever people say that, I always look it up, and it's like basically it's like the definition of objective is having your judgment not be influenced by personal feelings or opinions in considering and representing facts. And it's weird because in my day job, I'm an engineer, and I very often have to run experiments, collect data, analyze the data, and then present that data. And in that case, I need to be objective because I need to take literally just the facts, take out what I thought was going to happen, take out what I hope was going to happen, and I'm supposed to just do that objectively. And I do that all day long at my day job. But when you're like doing something like a board game review, something creative like this, I think it's shining through. So why not have those be a part of that? It should actually be embraced, because people don't care about the facts. Yeah, they want to know like how the game works and stuff like that, but they really do want to know your opinions. And once people get to know you, they know what your biases are. And if they don't, I typically tell you. Like at the beginning, I just reviewed Clank. This is a game from like Renegade Game Studios, and it's a deck building game with a board where you're trying to go down and get an artifact and get out. And it's got like a press your luck mechanism, and the more noise you make, the more cubes go into the dragon bag, and then the dragon hits everybody, and you're gonna be. It's like got all this cool stuff going on. And I usually don't like deck builders, but at the beginning I'll say I don't like deck builders. I don't like Dominion. I'm just weird in that way. I just don't like them. Yeah. But from that perspective, I really liked the game. And when you say that, it's like, oh, okay. Now, if I had said, I love deck builders and this is awesome, well, then I don't know. If you don't like deck builders, does that mean you're going to like it? I don't know. So I think like having those biases and opinions are actually really important to reviews, as long as you state what those biases are at the beginning of the review, because that helps give people the sort of, the bookmark as to where you are on the spectrum of things.
Mm-hmm. It's also like if you're completely objective, then how can you really like show your passion for something? If you're like really excited about something and you're being completely objective, it's like, okay, well, here's this game and this is how it works, and we'll see you guys next week. Like, how can you be like, this is like an awesome game, or like this is something I like, or this is how me and my friends played, and different things like that. So I feel like if you're trying to be 100% objective, then you can't like show your passion for the hobby in the same way, because I mean, I feel like a lot of us are doing board game media because we want to share board games with people and share like the excitement that we have getting around the table with our friends. We want other people to be able to do that and build relationships with other people in the same way, because it's not just about the cardboard on the table. It's about the people around the table as well. So
yeah, and about being passionate. I mean, yeah, that usually always comes through. Although if you watch one of my reviews and and it's just sometimes you just can't help it that even watching the overview, you
Mhm.
can tell if I'm not gonna like a game.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
because of the tone of my voice, maybe because I'm talking faster than normal, or like it's weird. I try not to,
Yeah.
but it's really weird. Like when I'm shooting a review, sometimes I'll shoot it and I'll go, oh my gosh, I want to play this again right now. And other times I'm like shooting the overview and I'm thinking to myself, I cannot wait to get this stupid thing off my table. You know, I cannot wait to get through this. I'm never gonna see this again. You know, and it's like it's hard to mask that. And I don't think I do, but you like if you ever watch one of my negative reviews and you watch my overview, like yeah, you can tell that he feels different about it. But yeah, that passion needs to come through one way or another.
That's awesome. You could just pull a Tom and like throw it off a roof or throw it in a trash can or something. Burn it right there on the
I'm
table.
Actually, that brings up another thing about negative reviews. It's like a lot of reviewers won't do them, and I don't enjoy doing them. I mean, I think all of us would rather talk about something we're excited about other than talking about something that we're not excited about. That's just like human nature, right? So like I don't enjoy doing them, but I don't avoid doing them either. I know some people do because of one reason or another. Either they just don't want to spend the time on something they don't like, or they don't want to hurt anybody's feelings or whatever. But I hate doing them because I don't want to spend time talking about something I don't like. But
Right.
I feel like it really does bring value to the people because my whole philosophy and the whole like thing that I try to do with my channel, like the first two words in my mission statement is helping you. It's helping you find the next board game you love. It's all about helping people is really what my channel's about. And if I'm not doing negative reviews, then I feel like I'm not helping them as much as I could because they need to know certain games that, and it's not even just if I didn't like it, but what about it didn't I like? So whenever I do a negative review, I'm very cognizant of the fact that just because I don't like it doesn't make it a bad game. In fact, there's many games that I'll review and I'll go, you know what? I can see this is a good game. I can see that this has a good potential in the market. I think a lot of people like this. I didn't like it. Here's why I didn't like it, but here's the type of people that probably will like it. And I always try to break that up because I think for most games that we get our hands on these days, there's going to be some people that at least like it. And so I feel like it's my job to say who I think's going to like it and who I think's not going to like it. So I don't like doing negative reviews, but I do know that it brings a lot of value. So I still do them. And I just try to say, who would like it.
It's kind of interesting because like I watch a ton of different reviewers and different things like that. It's always good to like know, like when you watch the same person for a while, you kind of like know what their tastes are, what they like and what they don't like. And it's like, okay, well, this person gave this game a negative review for these reasons. That means I'll probably actually like the game, or maybe they said it was positive and they love it because it's this great thing and that. And you, if your tastes don't really line up with theirs, then you can be like, oh, well, they love this game, so I probably don't like it. So if you watch the same person over a while, it's like I know that Dan King's the guy to go for like deduction games and social deduction type stuff and like stuff that's like not like weird fantasy weirdness, but like more like realism for like their themes. Like he's all about those kinds of games. So I'm like, let me check out what Dan thinks about this. And then like you said, if there's a game that normally that person doesn't like Dan doesn't like deck builders, and oh my gosh, he gave this deck builder a great review, there must be something more there to check out. So
right. But it goes the other way too. Like I'm looking at a game here called Covert from Renegade Game Studios, and it's coming out soon. And it was one that I absolutely loved, and I gushed all over it. I didn't have a whole lot of negative things to say, but at the same time, at the end, I said, "But if you don't like really thinky, puzzly games, you're probably not going to like this, even though I absolutely love it." So it kind of goes both ways, whether it's negative or positive.
Yeah.
I always try to think of all the different people watching and who needs to stay away from this, even though I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's awesome. So you can kind of be objective in some ways, but still be able to tell people how you feel. So
Sure.
Awesome. So what is
Can I
your...
ask you a quick question?
Do it.
Yeah.
Do you feel pressure to kind of hold back on being possibly too negative?
No, it's just I don't feel pressure to hold me back. It's just I feel like I can get my point across without being blunt enough and rude enough that I would hurt somebody's feelings. I think when you watch a negative review of mine, you can get the sense that it's not a good. And I obviously put out why I don't like it, right? But I try not to say anything that would personally make someone upset. And I try to do it in a very professional manner, but still getting the point across of the things that I didn't like about it, and what things you might not like about it. So I don't even feel like I have to hold myself back because I don't ever want to hurt anybody's feelings. But at the same time, I feel like I'm still telling enough of the truth and then directly enough that the message is getting sent. So it's a really it's a tightrope act, right? You need to be honest. You need to be saying what it's wrong, but at the same time, you don't want it to blow the guy's head off that designed the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a tough, and some people don't mind doing that, and some people are known for that actually, and some people that's their shtick. That's just personally, I don't like to hurt people's feelings, so I try to, tell the truth, but still not do it in a professional and respectful fashion.
Cool.
I was actually watching a video from a guy today who said that any games that he gets that are he wouldn't review positively, he just tells the designer and just doesn't review them at all. He's like, okay, I'm only going to do positive reviews, period. If it's not a good game, I'll tell them that I don't like the game and they just need to take it back to the drawing board, which I think is an interesting approach. But then that's still not going to, like you said, you're trying to help out people who are gamers. If someone sees it on the shelf and there's just no reviews for this game at all, how are they going to know if it's good or bad? If at least there's someone talking about it, at least then they can actually make a decision on whether they like it for themselves after they see you lay it out and talk about it and give your opinions. So
but there's a lot of people that I think I've run into a lot of people that are the same way. They don't like the game, they won't review it, and that's fine. I mean, you can do whatever you want to do. There's no rules to this. That's what's kind of cool about it. Like Joel Eddy. I really like Joel on and off the camera. We talk quite a bit. And he doesn't do negative reviews, but he does a blacklist online. He does the geek list where he has the games that he doesn't like and why. And he puts all that information there, but he doesn't want to spend all the time producing a review for that, which I totally understand. So, but there's a lot of people that do that, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. It's just whatever you feel comfortable doing. And for me, I feel like, well, I've already gone through half the work of playing the game and putting my thoughts together. And people need to know. I feel like they need to know about this. So, but some people don't, and that's totally fine.
It's definitely great.
Plus it gives validity, I think, because if you always just like a game, I think then when you do like a game, maybe not love it, but just like it, then they're like, okay, well, what's the scale? Does that mean it's bad because you only liked it and you don't do negative reviews? So there's a sliding scale. Right. So I think doing negative ones also helps in the validity of everything else you do.
I agree 100% with that. For the people that don't do the negative reviews, I kind of take their reviews almost a little bit with a grain of salt because I know they're only doing it because they liked it. Where I would rather have somebody's personal and professional opinion of here's why I didn't like it. Because a lot of times, and Roy and I and Matt and I, we've talked about this in the past, where we will watch your reviews or other people's reviews to get an idea if the game is good or not. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to just look up that game online and all of a sudden there only be glowing reviews. If everyone only did positive, I think that will hurt more games than it will possibly help games. Now, there are some games that are just amazing and everybody loves them. For example, Rhino Hero. It's one of the greatest games ever created, and nobody doesn't like that game. But you do need a little bit of the devil's advocate in there, especially when it comes to money, because some of these games are not cheap games.
Right.
And so, I just I appreciate that you do that. And there's a couple others that semi do it. And I'm not looking for anybody to rip a game or to be rude or to attack anybody. But yeah, just don't BS me or waste my time. If it's not good, tell me why it's not good.
And especially
you'll find if you watch my reviews, you'll probably see 9 out of 10 of my reviews are positive reviews. And why is that? It's because I purposely tell publishers, do not just send me games.
Yeah.
I'm part-time. I'm looking at 30 plus games that I've already played that I still have to film, and I have more than 30 here that I haven't played yet. And I'm doing this part-time, granted, probably close to 30 hours a week right now on top of my engineering job. I'm trying to do this full-time eventually. And even with this, I am hand-picking which games I want to review that I'm excited about, that I think are going to be awesome games. And most of the time, I'm right, because you tend to know what you like after a while.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So when I do a negative review, it's usually like, hey, I thought this game was going to be cool. It's not actually what I hoped it was going to be. Yeah. I very rarely get a game and I'm totally shocked or I knew I wasn't going to like it, because it's probably not my pile if I knew I wasn't going to like it. Mm. And so, 9 out of 10 of my videos are positive reviews, but the ones that aren't are usually disappointing. You go to my website at GameBoyGeek.com. There's a big table there of all the 600 reviews I've done. You can sort by rating, and you can just sort and look at all the low ones, and there's a bunch of them. But in percentage, there's probably 10% of them are bad.
Yeah.
That's why I handpick them. So
there's so many great games coming out these days that nobody has time to play the bad ones. What does like your review process look like as far as like getting in a game and like playing it and actually getting it all videoed and everything and getting it out there to the YouTubes?
It varies quite a bit depending on the time of year. I mean, if it's convention season, usually, I try to limit how much I come home with, but usually I'll have 25 or 30 games then, and there's always a queue here at some point. So it depends. Like after Essen's over and we go through all those games, and it's kind of like a normal between I'd say December or January and like convention season, it's more like things trickle in. I'm trying to get through all the stuff from Essen, and it's just like it really depends which games go first. It depends on how many people I end up having that night, how many, which ones have we played, which ones have we not played, which ones do we still have to play again, with the different player counts. And it's just like, it just depends on scheduling. It depends on which players. If I have party games, I will specifically take them to my family because I know that they love party games, but I'll also play that at least once with a gamer group too to see how it goes over. So it kind of just depends on the game, on the type of game it is, on the number of players, and then the scheduling and stuff. But typically, you get the game in, you figure it out, it gets slotted up. You're trying to, you have it on any given night. We'll be playing from, probably 6:30 till close to midnight. We'll play a bunch of games, and then we'll do that once or twice a week. And then I spend almost 2 full days, I'd say, doing the shooting, the editing, and then the uploading, the tagging. It's amazing how much work goes into it after the shot is done. Even after you're done editing, from rendering to uploading to tagging to Facebook and the Twitter, all that. Like, there's so much that goes into it. It's a ridiculous amount of work that nobody would realize there's that much work to it, but it's a ton of work.
Yeah. Well, we definitely appreciate all the work. How important do you think reviews are to like the success of a game?
I think they can be hugely important. I mean, it's marketing in a sense, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, publishers wouldn't be sending them out if they didn't think it helped sales. And I've heard publishers say no review is a bad review. Even bad reviews are good reviews because at least it's information about the game. And again, just because someone says it's bad doesn't mean that it's bad for someone else. Someone might watch that bad review and go, oh, he doesn't like that stuff, but I do, so publishers know it. That's why they give us the games. They know it impacts their bottom line. And I know it, and you guys know it. I think the more and more people talk about a game, obviously the more buzz and hype. I mean, this is an industry that is like run by hype. I mean, look at Scythe. Not to say that it didn't live up to a lot of that, but this and Kickstarter and stuff, like this industry runs off of hype. And reviews help with that a ton. Mm-hmm. So I think it's imperative for any publisher to be sending out review copies, not willy-nilly, but literally researching as to which reviewers do I think this would fit, right?
Right, yeah.
And I know they can affect them the other way too, because I've negatively reviewed a game that had not hit street date yet, and the publisher got a hold of me and really let me know in a certain fashion how much that really hurt him. And I said, you're crazy because I'm not that big. Like, my negative review is not going to do anything bad. He's like, no, when a game is not yet out, distributors have not made their orders yet. It's not, the street date's not even there yet. If you give it a negative review, that really does hurt it. And so it from hearing that, it does make a big deal from what they're telling me. And that's the publishers.
Did you say, make good games? No, I'm just kidding.
No, I said, you send me a game to review, I'm not going to hold back of putting it out, and I'm not going to change my schedule because it's a bad review. If you send it to me, it's fair game for me to put it up whenever I want.
Yeah. Integrity is a real thing, especially in reviewing.
Yeah, so we had a little tizzy, and we're all good and friends and stuff, but that was a growing... that was a relationship stretching and growing opportunity for us.
Yeah, we already talked about it a little bit, but the next question was about publishers utilizing reviewers to get the word out about their game. I definitely think that's huge, especially for for all different size publishers to just make sure that the word gets out about their games, sending their games out to different reviewers.
I mean, look at Mechs and Minions. Nobody knew it, and then they had the embargo, and then all of a sudden at 2:30 the other day, all of a sudden there's like 8
Explodes,
videos
yeah.
from all the biggest
Everybody is now talking about that game.
right? So there you go. I mean, look what that did. They did it really smart. They got everything lined up. They got a lot of people they think would like the game that are big, and they got them all to do it at the same time. Like that's smart. I mean, actually, oddly enough, I don't know if that's going to happen more and more often. I kind of like that idea. I know that when Yellow came out with their Antoine Bauza game this year at Gen Con, let's see, what the heck is the name of it? Help me out, fellas.
No, I'm thinking. I remember. It wasn't this year, but I remember. Here's a Normandy, Pingo.
Wait, that was all last year's stuff, right?
I know, that's what I'm trying to go through my mind. I'm eliminating last year's. I'm trying to remember what Yellow's big game was this year.
It was,
Unfortunately, I didn't even stop by their booth, so no help for me.
I remember I wanted Pingo really bad, and it just the DVD killed it for me.
So yeah, so earlier this year, Yellow did something. Oceanos. So it was that drafting game, Antoine Bauza's drafting family game, and they did something similar where they sent it out and they had us both put our reviews out at the same time, and that was a little different because that was a prototype that we all had a single final copy that was sent, and we had to like film it and then send it to the next reviewer, and they filmed it and they sent it to the next reviewer, and then we all had them go up at the same time. And so I think people are starting to think more about like the timing of how things happen, and I think that's anytime people try to think of a better way to do things, I think that's kind of cool for big releases. Not that Oceanos is as big as like Mechs and Minions, but Mechs versus Minions, but I think I have a feeling after seeing how this went over, I have a feeling other publishers are going to probably try to do that for big releases in the future.
I mean,
we've kind of talked about that in the past. The company that's coming out with this game, their background of the games that they've done in the past are all video games, and those type of reviews are very or video game, but those type of reviews and that type of marketing is very common, I guess you could say. Yeah. In the PC and video game market, so
but it's also a lot easier to do in that market because you can send people code very easy, but you got to send people these physical copies is a lot harder. You got a lot of logistics to deal with.
They also said they didn't want to have a No Man's Sky issue where like they hype the game and then it comes out way later and then it's not as good as everybody thought it was in their hype, which No Man's Sky is a video game. But yeah, I kind of like the fact that like they released the embargo and everybody showed it, and then like it's gonna come out in like a month. Like that's kind of cool, not having to wait like a year after the announcement of all this stuff and people just being like, it can, I guess, overhype it in people's minds, and then they might be disappointed when they actually get it. I guess I don't know, but it looks awesome. So what drives you specifically to be a board game media content creator?
For me, I mean, it still just goes back to my mission, which is helping you find the next game you love. And it's really about helping people, being an active member of the community. The community is just an amazing thing, though, loving people that just really just are excited, are passionate, and are willing and able to share knowledge and help others out. And so that really drives me is that I can reach a certain amount of people with my videos and help them. And so that's really what drives me to do it.
That's awesome. How do you think board game reviews can help bring people into the hobby?
I started a series this year called Gamer Tested Spouse Approved, kind of like the old Kick cereal, like Kids Tested Mother Approved thing. And
I like
so
that.
it's called Gamer Tested Spouse Approved because my wife is not a gamer, but she now has like over 40 games on my shelf that I'm looking at that she enjoys. And I've been slowly kind of over the last 3 years, kind of like putting one in front of her every once in a while and teaching her, and she likes the lighter stuff. And so I started a series where basically I do a 1-minute overview of the game, and then I interview her as to, well, why do you like it? And I every once in a while I'll inject why a gamer would like it too. And so it's made for non-gamers. So it's for like the people like us that have spouses or friends that don't like it. they could say, hey, take a look at some of these videos here. They're about 5 minutes long, and you can see which ones you might be interested in. And it's a quick way of doing that. And so I think it has a huge impact on people. And my whole idea for that series was exactly for that, was trying to think of a series that would help people that aren't in the industry get into the hobby. So I think it can have a huge impact because anybody can sit down and press play on YouTube. People know how to do that all the time, right? And
Yeah.
my theory is everybody's a gamer. They just don't know it yet. Because so many times you teach somebody like a gateway game and their head explodes. I mean, how many times have you seen this happen? It happens all the time. I mean, very rarely will I have somebody over that has not played any of these types of games and play something with them and at least have them not walk out here with at least one of the games going, wow, I really like that. Where can I get it? Like, it never happens that they're like, games suck. Like, it never happens. So I think people, they just need to see it. They need to see it with their own eyes. They need to experience it. And I think video can do a huge thing for that because, it's easy to send those to people and say, hey, check these out, and they can look at them and see which ones they might like.
Awesome.
I would like to add, I think the reviews will also help bring people in because the whole idea of the video concept. When you see some of these games in the rule books, not necessarily that Dan or other reviewers are going to go over the entire rule book, but they do go over the mechanics of the game and what it can do. That helps drop some walls and some barriers for some people because I know I've done that to friends of mine that aren't board gamers, and I'll send them the review of the game, and they're like, "Oh, that sounds cool and interesting." And you move here and you do that. Okay, I'll try that game, and so that way, rather than just handing them a rule book, I think that's a way to bring people in because everybody YouTubes now, everybody watches those videos now. Watching a 10-minute video is not as intimidating as reading that boring, 20-page rule book.
Yeah, and actually that's another reason why I started doing on my website. They're called Rule School. So Rule Schools are basically, I teach you how to set up and how to play the game rule for rule. I've been doing a bunch of them this year for publishers. I'm doing almost one every week here for the next 10 weeks. I've got them lined up. So that's another way that I'm trying to help people find that. So it used to be help people find the next game they're going to love. And now I'm going to be rehashing that tagline to helping you find and enjoy the next game you'll love. Because like you said, teaching them the game will help them enjoy it faster and more.
Yeah. Have you done one yet on Descent?
No.
Because I'll be watching
I'm
videos
surprised
soon.
Rodney hasn't done one on Descent.
Yeah.
He probably has. Who knows? It's funny because like my ritual for like I open up the board game and stuff and punch up all the components and stuff. And normally people would go to the rule book and try to learn how to, but I normally watch a ton of like review videos on a game I've already bought, but see what people like, how they say it works and different things to just get like a concept of the game. Like it won't give me the rules 100%, but I can see like kind of like, oh, it has this mechanic from that sort of game and that mechanic from that sort of game. And I'm like, I game all the time, so I know the game. So if I'm like, oh, this is very similar to that or this, it makes it a lot easier just to be able to watch a bunch of different people like talk through the game, and then I can go from there and like skim through the rule book, and it'll make a lot more sense to me. Mostly because I hate rule books. So I just watch videos on everything so I can consume all the board game reviews and all the how to plays and all those sort of things. So
yeah, I've done that before too, but I'm mostly like the opposite. I'm a rare breed. Like it's odd. I know you want to kill me, but I actually love reading new rule books. And the weird thing is I will read a rule. Usually when I read rule books, I don't even have the game in front of me. Like I will read the entire rule book, and my head will just like picture the game as I'm going through it. And I'm like, okay, and I'll get all the components and I'll just do it. It's just really weird, but I enjoy it.
Yeah, but it's
weird.
not that weird though, because you're an engineer. Like engineers are just
true.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying is people like me need people like you to make the videos.
Yes.
It's weird, but like I read rule books for fun. Like if I have a game.
Now that is weird. For fun, that is
like 9:00 at night, and I'm like, man, I haven't read that rule book yet. I want to see what this is all about, and I'll just like read it for fun. It's sick. I know.
For me, I'll be like, I haven't read that rule book yet. Let's see what somebody else said that was all about. Let me watch a video. Pull up my phone. Let's do this. So
I'm the same way as Dan, and I remember specifically as like a child, I would go get like Game Boy games and then like open them up, and then I would read the rule book before I played the game. Like there's tiny little things that don't even tell you anything about how to play the game, where it's just like, this is the world of Pokemon, and it's just like, and I was just like, yeah, and I would just get into that, and then I'd play the game, and I was like, okay. Don't do it anymore, but you know.
So Matt, why aren't you
I
reading the
understand that
rules and teaching us how to play the games? Come on, man.
Well, the thing is, you guys bring over games that are roughly the size of me and go, I don't know how to play this. And then we go, huh.
Yeah, reading the rule book is not an experience you want to do with other people
game night.
around. You want to do it like
No.
by yourself where you can concentrate.
Yeah, usually by the time I've sat down with my group, when they come over, I usually have the 3 or 4 games I'm going to play that night. And I've probably read each of those rule books 3 to 4 times. And so by the time they get there, and it's weird because you end up you're teaching a game that you've never played before. And it's weird, but like after you do it for a while, you actually get sort of good at it. Like it's a weird thing. It's like, hey, this is how this works. This is how this works. I've never done this before. I've just internalized it, and it makes it go a lot better. And sure, we have the rule book out the whole time, and sure, we're checking stuff, but like it makes it a lot more efficient on their time because I value their time so much that like I need to basically be teaching it to them like I've already played it by the time they get there. And that's kind of what I do for them because I want, and they help, they come over and they spend a lot of time with me every week. And so I don't want them to be sitting there listen to me read a rule book to them. That would kill them, right?
Yeah.
I can tell you that Dan's really good at learning the rules in stressful situations because he was learning how to play Captain Sonar while we were playing Secret Hitler, and it was the loudest game of Secret Hitler ever.
Emerson stood
Dude,
up.
you know it's a loud game when Emerson Matsushi gets up and starts screaming at people.
Yes.
The guy who has like the softest monotone voice in the history of board gaming.
And we got done with
I think
that.
we broke
and
him that night.
We got done with that,
fine.
and Dan just walked us through the whole game and told us everything. It was perfect.
Yeah, but you know what? You were the most attentive pupil I've ever had. You were like staring at me. They're like, what are you doing? You're like, I'm just listening. I don't want to miss anything. I'm like, man, that's good. Usually there's people on phones, taking pictures. And he was just like staring at me, listening to everything I said. I was like, man, that was nice.
Normally, I'm the person that teaches the games in our group. So like when people teach me the game, I want to learn it. Especially since it was like a team game. I didn't want to let my team down. I feel like we did okay.
That's weird because I teach almost every game I play, and if I'm going to a place and someone's teaching me a game, it almost drives me bananas.
Oh yeah.
It's really weird in that way.
The worst thing is like when someone's teaching a game that I know how to play also, like that's the worst. And I'm just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Or like if they're like, I probably would have said that in a different order. I would have went with this for like it's a lot easier when it's like I have no clue at all. So
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome. So let's go for something different here. What is the best part about the board gaming industry?
You say about the board gaming hobby?
Industry as a whole, like working in the industry, doing different things with the industry, doing reviews. What do you think the best part is?
The best part is the community aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go to conventions, you meet these people that you've been interacting with online, that you've been helping with, they've been helping you, and you meet in person, and it's just like, it's almost like you've known each other forever. And then you keep that relationship throughout the year. And then you might see them once, maybe twice a year, and you pick up right where you left off when you see each other. It's like, it's like old pals. And it's just such a loving, helpful community that I think that is the best part of being a part of this.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely like. We all have a common goal as board gamers. Let's work together and play games and have fun.
What other industries, seriously, do you have people that are literally like direct competition, doing the same things as you, and you're like friends, and you're like hanging out and having dinner and talking and laughing and playing games, and then we're both going to go and review the same game and try to get it out before each other? Like, that's cool. That is cool.
With that being said, who do you think is your board game reviewer rival? Who are you always trying to beat and get out there faster than?
Well, I don't try to beat anybody. When I get a game in, if it's hot, I try to get it out just as quick as I can.
You're not even looking at anybody else. You're just like, gotta get this done.
Yeah, I mean, if it's a hot, most of it won't really matter because,
everybody will hit it.
Everyone, yeah. If it's a hot game, most people are getting it around the same time, and what difference is a week or a couple of days gonna make? Like even in the rare instances that I might get like a hot game out before the Dice Tower, let's just say, like mine could be out 2 weeks before theirs, which would be like not normal. and then they'll put theirs out, and within 24 hours they'll still have 10 times as many views as I will. So it doesn't really matter. But consistently being on at least the early side of things does help, because if every time somebody goes to look for a game review and it's brand new and there's like me and one or two others and it's consistently like that, then that can help with visibility and stuff. So sure, you want to get things out fast, but at the same time you want to do a good thorough job too. So there's that balance.
In your opinion, as an expert game reviewer, is there one game you think that everyone should own?
Ooh. I don't know if there's one game that everyone should own. I think there's plenty of games that the majority of people would like, but I think like you could think of any game, and I think there's going to be somebody that's not going to like it, right?
True.
But if I were to choose one, I would probably say Ticket to Ride, because it's obviously the gateway game to help people. I've used that. I've seen more people get in the hobby with me teaching them that game than anything else. And B, it's got enough expansions that change the rules and bring in some extra mechanisms that the gamer people could get with it too. I mean, you play the Africa map with some gamers, and that is some cutthroat stuff. Like I don't care if you're like these crazy like heavy Euro gamers that like toss Ticket to Ride to the side, but like you can play that very, very gamery, I'd say, with some of the expansions for sure.
Awesome.
Opposite question. What is a game that's overhyped that you think is well, let's not say dumbest, just most overhyped game out there?
Good question.
Rob's trying to call you out on your negative reviews here. He's like, Dan, I need you to do it right now.
Well, I mean, not necessarily, but there are some games that I'm not going to mention on the show that I think are overhyped that I really don't care for. So I just want to know what Dan the man.
Let's see. If I bring up Board Game Geek and I look at the top numbers there, oh gosh, there's a lot of them.
Dan's going to make us cry. Please don't say one of my games. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, hype. I don't know. This is a tough one. I mean, there's a lot of games that people love, but like, what's over? Like, just because I don't like it doesn't mean that it's overhyped. Like, for me personally, it would be overhyped, but for somebody else, it might be perfect, right?
See, well, yeah, but we were talking about this the other day.
Goes back to your last statement, though. It goes back to your last statement. Not everyone's going to like everything. So for Dan King personally,
I think Pandemic Legacy was way overhyped. It's the number one on Board Game Geek right now, and it was a good game, and I enjoyed it. And going into those little boxes.
Yeah.
But I played it like 2 weeks after I played Time Stories, and like this story, quote unquote, storyline felt thin compared to what I felt when I had played Time Stories. Yeah. So I can see that it's an amazing design effort. I can see that the amount of time that went into the development of it and thinking of the story and all that stuff, and it's not like it's a bad game, but I think the amount of hype that it got last year was not warranted.
It is tough, though, to follow Time Stories with another story game, because Time Stories is remarkable as one of the best.
Yeah, I mean, if I had played that before Time Stories, I might have felt a lot more positive about it. Yeah. But it was just like, man, after that, it was like, really? Like, yeah, this story's kind of cool, but it's not all that, you know?
Yeah. The awesome thing about that is that Matt literally just bought 2 copies of that game.
Yeah, I needed to reach that $100 on Cool Stuff to get the free shipping.
Matt's like, I don't know which game I should buy. I'll just buy another copy of Pandemic Legacy. I'm like, what? Why?
But they're different colors.
I say you could have asked me. Like, I had a huge list of games you probably love. It'll be fine.
Well, see, I don't know. For me,
it'll be fine.
Hey, speaking of shipping, I gotta plug my sponsor here. Miniature Market, right? When I first joined them as a sponsor, one of the coolest things that I learned that I didn't know before then was that because I used to do the same thing. I used to like buy $100 to get free shipping. Mm-hmm. But then I found out that Miniature Market will ship any game or games for $6. If it's, I mean, you still get it for free if it's $100 or more. But like, you could buy like what was it at the time? I was looking at the big box version of El Grande that had just come out. Like that game was like $50, right? And it was a huge game. But if you didn't want to buy another $50 worth of stuff, it's just $6 to ship it. Like period. Like it doesn't matter. So anyway,
And they're
a lot
pretty
of people don't know
comparable
about it.
too, so they try to be
I
competitive.
didn't know a lot. I didn't know about that before I had joined up with them, and when I saw that, I was like, "Man, this is like really cool." So I've used that a lot because sometimes I don't want to spend all of 100. Anyway,
Right. Yeah. No. Understandable.
No, that's actually a really great plug, and that makes a lot of sense too.
yeah, because I didn't know about it, and I don't think a lot of people know about it. But now that I know about it, I use it a lot. So
That's
A
awesome.
random segue back to Time Stories. Have you played any of the expansions for Time Stories, Dan?
yes, I've
Pretty sure he's
reviewed
played
every
them all.
single one of them. What do you know?
Do you think the story is getting worse or better, or like what are your feelings on Time Stories?
So
I've lost trying to feel like there's some overarching story. I know there is, but at this point,
But,
it's it's so few and far between. I'm not going to stay awake at night trying to like figure out how they all work together. I do think it was cool how like in some of the later expansions there were like cards of artwork of like some of the previous expansions. Some of the characters came back, and then there was some
that's
art that were like looking forward to some of the other ones that were coming. I thought that stuff was cool, but I just think some of the stories have gotten, I don't know, some of them are better than others, but they're all immersive. So
Yeah, I've played all of them except for Under the Mask, and I just got that in, and I think Endurance is supposed to be coming out in like a couple months or something like that too. So
I
it
know
should
it's
be
got
coming out soon.
delayed. It was gonna be Q4, but I think it got pushed to next year.
Really?
Don't quote me on that, but I
That's
thought,
fine. It'll give us time to catch up.
No, I got the next one. I need the next one to come out. We're always supposed to be
Right.
one behind. So if we finish this one, then I'm gonna be playing the waiting game, like everybody else is.
That's fine.
It's fine. But yeah, I love Time
Yeah.
Stories. It's definitely. I feel the same way as you do about Pandemic Legacy, probably because of Time Stories. So
Yep.
awesome. So Dan, what is your overall favorite tabletop game of all time?
Well, we just talked about it. Time Stories.
Really? That's
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah, I was so blown away with that game. Yes, it has its flaws. Yes, it's rough around the edges. Yes, every single game has you're like, how does this work? And as bad as that is, and as many times as that happens during all of the expansions and all the big games, to still like at the end of the game not care because of how cool the experience was says a lot. And I played a lot of video games when I was a kid. Like my dad and I used to play Myst. And we just loved those games where it was like open and you're going over here and you're finding some clues and you're going over here and you're using that to figure this out. And I felt like I was playing Myst on a board game, and I just
That's
thought that was
exactly
the
what it is,
coolest
yeah.
thing. So it has been for me the best tabletop experiences I've ever had. Just watching other people look at the card and then tell you what they saw. I just think that's so simple but so immersive.
It's
That's
kind of
awesome.
interesting because a lot of people get hung up on the fact that you can't go through and replay it. But for me,
Who cares?
I've got so many games. I mean, I understand if like you're just coming into the hobby and you don't have many games, but
Yeah.
but like at the point we're at, where we have tons of games that it's hard to get all of them to the table, it's kind of refreshing almost to be able to. I played this game. I had one of the best board game experiences I've ever had, and now I'm just waiting for the next one to come out. So it's
Right.
kind of
You're not going to complain because you're going to go watch the same movie twice.
Right,
Why
yeah.
Yeah.
people don't complain about that? So why are you complaining about this? If it's good, it's good.
yeah.
That's right, Marlo. It's good.
Plus, the price point is like actually very feasible. Like if
Yeah,
it were
but-
a $60 to $100 game, I could understand
The
like a lot of the
expansion's only like
trepidation
20.
about jumping in.
I
Yeah.
just got in trouble. I wasn't supposed to do that.
$20 I think I paid.
Yeah. I love it. I just wish I just want them more. Like they just need to keep on. Like I want them to not stop. So Dan, you need to keep hyping it up so that everybody and their mom. Like I did a thing on Board Game Blender about Time Stories once, and I was just like, designers. Every designer needs to make a scenario for Time Stories. That would be amazing. Like everybody get in there, do it. We just need all the scenarios, just because that system is so just ripe for expansions and ripe for just doing all sorts of crazy things, because it's just about exploration and deduction and working together as a team and trying to put puzzles together and go through a cool story.
I want the expansion where we get to attack Bob.
Oh, that's
one-
awesome.
Where we get to just like where we find out Bob
Oh,
is
yeah,
like
he's-
rogue and
he
he's
is
just
annoying.
like a jerk. And
Yeah.
we get to go back and like beat him up as like a teenager or something like that.
After playing one of the scenarios, I feel like it might not necessarily be completely unfeasible. So, I mean, whose side are we really on? Whose side are we on, Dan? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't even care. I'm just having fun.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. Well, is there anything else you'd like to talk about or promote before we close this thing out, Dan?
No, just if you need to learn about a game, and you need to learn how to play it, you want to see what I think about it, just go to GameBoyGeek.com. You can find me at all the places on the interwebs from that place.
What do you think of 1775?
Oh, it's up here. I love it.
Yeah.
It's my own. It's the only war game I own.
Really? Okay, because I'm a big war gamer and it's on my short list. And
If you really like war games, you might find
Yeah.
it boring. But if you like war games and you want to like bring someone that doesn't play war games, that you'll probably enjoy it and they might love it, then that's it. I love
But see,
it.
I'm also a history guy. I love history, and there's really nothing out there for the Revolutionary War, and I know that one's there, and so it's
It's
on
really
my
good.
short list. Yeah.
Man, it's I mean, it replaced Memoir 44 for me for like the entry level war game because it's so fun.
Nice.
Even though you got, I mean, the units that were cubes and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Did
they're
you-
cubes. It's fine. It's I like
You
the
can't
artwork.
replace plastic miniatures with cubes. Tell me you didn't get rid of Memoir 44.
Oh yeah, I did a long time ago.
Bye, Dan.
I get rid of almost everything that comes in here these days. So
So if you see it on the shelf behind him, it must be important.
yeah,
Can I just give you my address? Can I be your dumpster?
you're a dumpster.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Are you
Oh.
guys going to BGG Con?
I wish. That's right at. I work in retail, and that's right at like the right before Black Friday,
Black
and it just
Friday.
does not work working a retail job. So I wish, but we'll miss all you guys. out
Terrible
there.
excuse, by the way.
Well, I mean, if I could just get a sweet job in the board game industry, I could just go to all the cons. Yeah, right.
I just bought a house, and I have to buy my wife a kitchen before I do anything else.
That's a
So,
good excuse.
Yeah,
Rory,
I'm,
yours is crap. His is good.
I'm gonna go into work and say, Dan told me to quit my job. I'm just kidding.
Have a good one.
I gotta go to Board Game
No,
Geek Con.
just have Dan send you an email saying we need Roy Kennedy at
It's like a
BGG
doctor's
Con.
note. I'll
Yeah,
send you a
Yeah,
doctor's
and
exactly.
just like, look, guys, I'll be back. I'm just letting you know for this weekend I'm going to be off.
I'm pretty sure I could get a publisher to let me demo at their booth like real easy, but you know, it's all good.
Yeah. But I would love to go to BGG Con. I have friends in Dallas and stuff like that, and my wife's from Arkansas, and Dallas and Arkansas, from where her family is, it's only about 4 or 5 hours. So I want to go. It just
One of these years we'll have to do it and then go raid the Plaid Hat warehouse at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
Good times.
those guys are great.
Oh no, guys! Well, we stream these Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. normally on youtube.com/c/Epic Gaming Night. Make sure to check us out there. We also have our awesome t-shirts for Epic Gaming Night and our 4X t-shirt at analoggamer.com/Epic Gaming Night. Make sure to hit us up on Twitter and Instagram at Epic Gaming Night. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dan. Is there anything else you want to say, or where can they
No,
find
man,
you
thanks
again?
for having me. Nope. Thanks for having me. It's a great time, guys.
Hey, thank you for coming.
Awesome. Thanks so much for coming on the show, and we'll see you guys next time.
And real quick, before you say peace, another plug for Dan is he also does the Dice Steeple, and I enjoy listening to the Dice Steeple. And
definitely.
I loved that you guys had the French guy. I can't remember it. Now it blows my mind.
Bruno Faduti.
Yes, and the fact that he's an atheist, and you guys had a great conversation. You talked about that. What an awesome interview. I mean,
was
just
fun.
a meeting of the minds and being able to respect each other's faiths and opinions. Really, really,
Yeah.
really great job. I mean, I've listened past that, but ever since when that episode came on, I was like, all right, I'm downloading this podcast for real. Like
that was a really
that was a great.
that was a very risky thing I did because I honestly didn't know how that was going to go. I told them we were going to, I told them beforehand what we were going to ask him and why I wanted him on the show, but I didn't know where it would go. And it was really cool. And then when I saw him at Gen Con this past year, we talked a little bit. So it was cool.
Yeah, I've been listening to the Dice Steeple since like it was just Tom, like back in the day, like back when it first started, and then when you and Sam took it over, like it's pretty awesome. Like I've been listening to all the episodes and stuff. So.
Yeah, we just had that comedian on, John Branyan, this last episode. He's a funny dude.
It's pretty awesome.
Yep, so I'm like one behind, I think.
So we'll add that to the show notes too, so people can click in there from the podcast and stuff. So
yeah,
they can get links for that as well. But awesome. So. Thanks anybody who's
awesome or just regular awesome.
Thanks to anybody who's checking us out on YouTube. Make sure to subscribe. And I'm gonna shut down the live stream now, so we'll see you guys later.